12 people have died, others have been rescued, properties have been destroyed. This is because it rained heavily and the accompanying floods have been disastrous for many, especially in the capital city. Once again, people are asking the same old questions. What we put in place, how do they work, and what we need to do moving forward? Is there any way of dealing with this once and for all? That's what we want to look at tonight. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Agenda. My name is Beatrice Adu, and tonight, beyond the flood waters, we want to look at Ghana's preparedness when it comes to dealing with disasters, fires, floods, water, what have you. And remember that we're streaming live on 3FM 92.7. We're also streaming live on our Facebook and all our social media platforms. Always remember to send us your comments and we'll read them back to you. Let me also remind you that Agenda is brought to you by the Bank of Africa. Now, quick fix loan from Bank of Africa is back. From now until the end of October 2026, the Bank of Africa is offering short-term loans at a very slim rate to salaried workers. We understand you have urgent needs to sort out. That's why we give you that quick turnaround time, whether it is school fees, prospectus, car maintenance, or that much-deserved family vacation. Bank of Africa will sort you out fast. Visit the nearest branch or chat Fafa at www.boaghana.com to sign up. You may also call or WhatsApp on 0244 338226 for inquiries. Sometimes all you need is a quick fix. Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close as a partner. Let me say, I'm joined in the studio by, by video call, first of all, by Dr. Ignatius Kweku-Williams, Deputy Director General, Ghana Meteo Agency. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, and thanks for having me.
I'm joined in studio on my right hand by Engineer Prince Kas Avotri, Executive Secretary, Structural Subdivision, Ghana Institution of Engineering. Good evening to you, sir. It's great to have you here again on Agenda. Yeah. All right, on my immediate left is Dr. Elvis Tre Giabo, Environmental and Climate Modeling Expert. Good evening to you as well. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Good evening. I'll be joined again via video call very shortly by Mr. Dennis Nate Ajano, who is the Greater Accra Regional Director for the National Disaster Management Organization. I did tell you of how many people have died and the fact that a number of people have equally been rescued with properties destroyed. Let's watch the Interior Minister, the Honorable Mohamed Muntaka Mubarak, bring us really an assessment as regards how much rain we received to cause this massive flooding in Accra yesterday, and what other details we need to know. Watch this.
We have a total of 7,761 households that were displaced, with 38,802 individuals affected. 7 people as of this morning were displaced, and the total death are 12 individuals that we lost. This was something that was a difficulty for us as a country. What happened yesterday gave us 169.2 millimeters of water, and this is the 4th largest volume of water in a day since 1995. Even if we had everything right, the kind of rains that we received in June and yesterday will have necessarily created some overflow and created some problem for us.
Interior Minister Mohamed Muntaka Mubarak making that emphasis that even if we had everything right, we would have still experienced the disaster we did see yesterday, and we'll be going into that. But first of all, I want to come to you, Dr. Ignatius Kweku-Williams. You're with the Ghana Meteo Agency. Yesterday, you gave us an 18-hour forecast. Today, you did same. Tell us what we should be expecting in the next few days, looking at what we've experienced so far.
So starting from tonight and into tomorrow morning, we are expecting some partly cloudy weather conditions over most of northern Ghana. However, within the upper regions, upper east and upper west, currently we have some rainfall activity happening in the upper east part of Ghana. People around Bolgatanga should already be seeing some of these activity, and it's moving a bit westward, so it's going to move from the upper east region into the upper west region. It's going to be mostly cloudy over southern Ghana, and this will persist a bit into later tonight. A few places along the coast are expected to experience some slight rain to drizzle into the early hours of tomorrow morning. And we should also be expecting some amount of thunderstorm with rain over a few places along the transition belt. And I must say that these are only some isolated cases over the transition belt.
Do I hear you?
Tomorrow, sorry?
Please go ahead.
Into tomorrow, most of northern Ghana will be partly cloudy in the morning, and by afternoon, they'll be seeing some mostly sunny conditions with some cloud cover. From late afternoon, we are likely to see some thunderstorm and rainfall activities expected over major parts of the northern region. For southern Ghana, mostly cloudy weather is likely to persist during the afternoon hours, with some occasional sunshine and sunny breaks are also expected. Over the coast in the morning, we are expecting slight rain to drizzle over parts of the coast, and late afternoon to the evening, we should see some showers with some thunder also expected over parts of the middle and the transitional sectors.
So, Doc, what I was asking you was for you to give us a general understanding of whether or not what we saw yesterday, we should be expecting perhaps more of that before the rainy season is over.
Once the rainy season isn't over, there's the high likelihood that we should be able to see, not at those particular levels because we are moving slightly towards the end of the rainy season. So although we might not see the conditions that we saw yesterday, there's also still the chance that we are likely to see some amounts of rainfall, especially within southern Ghana. But because we are moving out of the rainy season in southern Ghana, especially when we enter into July, going into the August, and this is where the rainy season for the southern sector is going to end. But however, we are experiencing now the rainy season in the northern part of the country.
I want to come to you, Mr. Kasa Avotri. Looking at what happened yesterday and your own understanding of things, do you think that we are prepared to handle such disasters as a country?
No, we are not. And then we've not been prepared for decades. So,
tell us why you think so.
We've been planning wrongly for decades. That's where it starts. Our attitude as people, that's also another. Enforcement as state organizations, that's also another. And long-term investment as people into the needed infrastructure that protects our lives and growth as a country has also been neglected for a period of time. So with all this compounded, I don't think we are prepared. Yeah.
We've put in a number of measures. We've spent money, Garrett project, flood, anti-flood programs recently we also saw the president launch the anti-flood task force, among others. Why do you think that all these things which we've put in place to help deal with the problem perhaps are not dealing with them as we should see?
I think if we zoom back to the Garrett project that you mentioned, from my last check, I think the project was on hold, and up to now, I think it's not even completed. That's about 40% of it. But that's even just touching an aspect of our problems that we have. I think as an institution, we've been very clear. We've issued policy statement to the ministry. We've issued directive what we should start doing as a nation. We've done that before even the rain starts. And these are systems and solutions that we have we've given out to our leaders and people as individuals we should look out for. And as we move on, I think I'll go directly into some of those things that we should start looking at. If you guide me as well, we'll start looking at the problems. I think I can list them into 5 of them.
Go ahead.
Then from there, we can now start looking at the solutions that we have. So we've always had the solutions. And it's like when the rain comes down, we all get like this. We come around the problem. Ideas are floated around. When the rain ends, we will go back to sleep. It's like we are acting like vultures. When it's raining, yes, we'll build a house. Once the rain season goes, oh, we don't need the house. The rain season has gone. And that has been a cycle. And that's what we've been running as a country from the beginning. So that would be my introductory remark.
That will be your introductory remark. I want to come to you, Dr. Elvis Jiabo. To what extent do you believe that climate change is contributing to what we are seeing?
So it's important
in this part of the world.
It's important to acknowledge that what we're experiencing is partly due to climate change. Reason being that the level of rains that are happening is not what would usually happen on an average rainy day. What usually climate change impacts you would expect is that either the rain patterns would increase or the volumes of rains would increase. What we're seeing is we're seeing more volumes of rain. I have my concerns with the numbers being put out there because you would ask yourself how many weather stations are across the city. So can we comfortably say this is the different rains that were experienced if you take between, say, La Paz and Medina? Can we be able to tell how much rain Medina experienced and how much rain people in La Paz experienced? That is one of the things we need to keep asking ourselves. Climate change is actually happening. It's not going to go away. Our temperature levels have already crossed the 1.5 degrees mark. What it means is that it's here with us, and we need to, most of the things we talked about, the plans we put in place, we need to start asking ourselves what we're doing with it. Because until you begin to put those plans in place and practice them, like when you have a fire evacuation plan, the needed thing to do is to do fire drills regularly so that the day there's fire, you can be able to get people out of the building. But if you just have a plan and that plan sits there and is never implemented, at the end of the day, you are going to get your building bent. And that's what we're experiencing. We have very, very few equipment to clearly tell us the various variability. It's not possible to say that everywhere in Accra experience the same volume of rain. So what is the minimum? What is the maximum? What is the average? We can't tell that because we don't have enough equipment to even be able to collect that data. But we've heard the
President and the Interior Minister telling us how much of rain we've received. You're doubting those numbers?
I'm not doubting those numbers. That's why I'm putting it out there. Not everywhere in Accra would experience the same level of rain. So the question is, which place experienced how much? What was the minimum? What was the maximum? We've not been able to hear that from anybody.
But what's the import of that information?
Because you will then know which areas in the city are experiencing more rain than other areas. Are places that are experiencing more rain getting more flooded? Are places that are experiencing less rain rather getting more flooded? Then you know what is happening to your rain patterns. That is one. The other thing we need to then begin to ask ourselves is the various plans we've had, climate plans, flood resilient plans, flood management plans. We have everything. We have a Vision 2020 where we did all these things and even built on various World Bank programs, including the Gary that developed various programs. Question is, those plans are sitting on books without any implementation. And so to come to a conclusion, if we have these plans and we say that we're developing a climate action plan, we're developing a flood resilient plan, we're developing a city resilience plan, it's important for us to move from the desk to now begin to practice these plans. What equipment do we need to even be able to tell the impact of climate change? Do we even know the flow rate of flood waters in the Odo? We don't, because we don't have equipment to tell us. What was the speed of the water at different places? We don't know.
So do I hear you indirectly say that we have not even found out the extent of our problem and therefore will not be able to prescribe the right solution?
It's to say that we've not invested to be able to know the extent. If you do not invest in the equipment, if you do not invest in the infrastructure, you cannot be able to know the impact of what you have experienced.
And I want to come back to you, Mr. Kasavotri, because you were saying that you were going to go through the challenges and some of the solutions. Yeah. And earlier, I was talking about some of the programs that we've had. Just to remind us again of these programs, we've had the Greater Accra Metropolitan Area Sanitation and Water Project. We spent monies on it. We've had the Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development GARID projects that we've been talking about since the rain started. Gamma Sanitation, there was an additional finance in 2020, and these are coming from 2013. You have 2024, the same additional financing. we've had all of these things to help us deal with the problem. And yet we saw the evidence when it rained yesterday and it flooded across the country. What have you got in terms of how you think we can approach this challenge moving forward?
Yeah, so we have always taken position that some of these projects that you mentioned nicely kind of just solve part of our problem. Now, let's not go far. I'll take the Dutch situation, Amsterdam, Rotterdam. I'll speak about Tokyo. These are all cities that have similarities with us in terms of topography as a city. And the Dutch have moved away from, for example, if you look at it, they've moved away from trying to contain our waterways to accommodating them. So what it means is that they are expanding. They are expanding. They have chosen a policy, a national policy, that they will make room for rivers instead of trying to contain them. So, for example, the Odo River, it could be expanded. Those walls, those linings could be scraped off. It could be expanded to, we can have a free-flowing stream all around the banks. So the catchment area, the Kole or Odo catchment area, that's one of them. They've also looked at what we call, instead of surface runoff, they are looking at subsurface attenuation, where they're also looking at giving out, creating retention bonds or even fields, football fields or parks, that during the dry season is used as event grounds, but during the rain seasons, they are used as catchment areas that the water comes to catch. It's like we hold a lot of water until it goes down, then it flows. We pump them, flows directly. So these are so many of them. And also the last time I was speaking about spatial planning as well, which is also another aspect of our life, where every house you see in Accra now, the compound is paved close to 100%. There are other countries too, they have policies that stipulate that you should be able to contain the water that flows on your roof when it rains into your compound for a period of time before it's released into the drainage channels. And we have wonderful laws. I'm going to say, like I keep repeating, Ghana, we have the best laws we can have as a country in Africa, and we are up there with the world. It boils down to enforcement. The last time I recall, the last time we had a drive as a nation that we've been very serious to drive a national policy to change something, I'll attribute it to the early stages of Operation Feed Yourself by General Champong, and also changing people from driving from the left to the right. These are the only two policies, even that it was success for a period of time. There are other reasons that led to, for example, Operation Feed Yourself going. So the question now is whether we as a country or as people, we have the drive to go in that tangent to make sure that we enforce all the laws that we have with regards to spatial planning, with regards to planning our homes, with regards to planning our infrastructure, with regards to planning our drainage system in the country.
Yesterday, we heard the president say after the aerial tour of the areas that were flooded that he was asking for the immediate demolition of all structures or buildings within waterways. That should be something good in the direction of fixing this problem.
Yeah, it should be able to help reduce the carnage we are seeing, because like we said, the Dutch have doing it. So they are giving, priority is given to river bodies and water flows. So yes, if we have the Sakumno-Ramsey side, which have all our surface runoff run there, is being blocked or is being filled up. If we're able to retrieve it, that's also another solution that we can be able to catch the water that we have from the upper stream to downstream. Same with the Kole as well. Same with the Densu Delta area as well. So these are readily things that we can fix in the short term to help reduce the impact of anytime we have this similar rainfalls like we are having in the past few days. So these are instant things that we can do. Then the long-term plan are things that we could also look at, like I've highlighted. I think the president also mentioned a few of them looking at that. But the key thing that I must also mention is our sanitation is also directly linked to our drainage system and our problem that we have. So whilst we are looking at all this, we should also start looking at our sanitation system as well. Where our open drains, by now we should now start to looking at covering our drains with gratings, with sediment catchment lines at intervals that we can easily trap silt and refuse at intervals. So these are systems that we need to look out for.
To what extent do you believe the proposal by the president, or the directive, I should put it, would help as an environment and a climate expert in dealing with this problem?
So it's one of the solutions. It's important to acknowledge, as my brother has said, there are multiple reasons why we're experiencing what we're experiencing. The drains are one of the problems. The other problems are the fact that, as he mentioned, the planning. We have plan schemes in the country. We're not enforcing those planning schemes. And then our waste management system. Our waste management system is failed completely, in the sense that if it hasn't failed, there's no way people should see the drains or the gutters or illegal disposal as a way of they dealing with their waste. So there is the behavioral aspect of it, and there's also the lack of the service. If the people supposed to come and collect the waste don't come, then people take it upon themselves to then exhibit the indiscipline of disposing it in a way that is not right. So until we're able to understand that one solution is good, but there are multiple factors to it in order to really address our flooding problem. There is the waste problem, there is the drainage problem, there is a sanitation problem, and then there is the land tenure problem, which we don't like to go to, because the only reason someone is building in a waterway is because they believe the land belongs to them. You realize you go to a district and a road is blocked off because the family is decided they don't want a road to pass through their land. And it's often hard for the district assembly to do anything about it. And it's because of our land tenure system. Lands are not owned by the states. They are owned by families, owned by individuals and all of that. So they choose what they want to do with their land. It's important that for some of us, when you hear that Achimota forest, part of it is being taken away to give to families, it becomes a problem because you're giving away buffer you can use to hold flood water. The Ramsar site is the way it is because families feel this is our land, we need building. So we go and we fill it and we build. And often the way we deal with the demolition is even a problem, because when you go and fill and build, you've changed the ecosystem of that site. So just demolition is not enough to restore the Ramsar site to do what it's supposed to do. Beyond the demolition, what else are we doing? What else are we supposed to do? It's supposed to make sure that you're restoring the area to be able to serve its ecological function. How do you service an area after the place has been cleared for building purposes and you've demolished it? How do you go restoring it to the original or close to the original state that will retain water? There's always reclamation. So first, take off whatever was not supposed to be there. Take it off. You can always reproduce the clay that is on the other side so that you can be able to do that. It's what we do for places like when we want to control coastal flood. You grow mangroves and make sure you're repeating the ecosystem to protect it. You don't just say, don't build here or break the building and leave the land as it is. When you do that, yes, you've cleared the building, but you've not restored the ecological function. And so if it rains, water will not be able to pass there. Often the topography is changed because they raise it and fill it. So if I now demolish the building, I should restore the topography so that it will still serve that ecological function. That is the step we're not doing. So we are dredging, we're demolishing, and we're not reclaiming, we're not restoring the ecological function. So in the end, those areas do not still serve the purpose we want it to serve. You mentioned the issue about our environmental challenges, and that's also something that Mr. Kasabotri talked about. Why do you think over the years we've been unable to deal with that? And for you as an environmental expert, what do you expect to be done from this moment forward? It's the thinking we've had of waste. We've seen waste as something you should throw away. That's where we have thought about waste. If you go to any country that's been able to deal with waste, waste is being considered a resource. There's no way you can have a space to keep all the waste you produce. It's not logically possible. So what do you then do? Segregate the waste. What is to be disposed of? Yes, you have hazardous waste which you can't do anything about. But your organics can be used for farming. Your plastics can be recycled. Your metals can be recycled. Your paper can be recycled. Instead of mixing them at source, separate them at source and let them be used for what it's used for. So you now go to the landfill site and you realize scavengers are on the landfill site trying to now take plastics from there, take metals from there, take different things from there. And in the end, you have created a problem because those things should have not gone to the landfills in the first place.
What really worries you most if in the next 5 years nothing changes?
I wouldn't be too surprised. The reason why I won't be too surprised is that we had June 3rd. June 3rd has been almost a decade, if I'm not exaggerating.
More than that.
More than that.
2015.
It was a national disaster. It was all over the globe, and we're still here. So, just as he said, and the president said that too, that we behave like the vulture. That when it's convenient for us, we make it a priority, we talk about it. But the question should be, it should be a system we have in place. Communities that flood should already know that when there's flooding, these are high grounds. Who do we call? Who do we go to? Within the community. NADMO cannot be everywhere. We tend to think that government only works when it's from the central point. But government works when all the various tributaries of that governance structure are functional. So this flooding reveals one thing, that our local government system is completely failing us. Because every area that is flooded is under some municipality or metropolis. What has been going on over the years? Does it have to flood before something is being done about it? What are they doing about their drains? What are they doing about sanitation?
There are people who have suggested that perhaps moving forward, some of the things we need to do should be holding district and municipal assembly heads responsible for the damages we see coming from floods, among others.
It would not be wrong to do that because the municipal assembly is one of the lowest governance structure, and they are responsible for sanitation. They are responsible for a lot of things that contribute to the flood. And so if you are responsible and you're not doing your work, you should be held accountable at the end of the day.
And you're still here on Agenda on TV3. We're looking at beyond the floods, what we need to do as a country to ensure that we are able to put the right structures and systems in place. When we come back, we'll be delving into what kind of collaborations are needed among institutions just so we're able to deal with this problem. Stay with us. Right here in the studio, Engineer Prince Kasavotri, Executive Secretary, Structural Subdivision, Ghana Institution of Engineering. Also, Dr. Elvis Tre, Giabo, Environmental and Climate Modeling Expert. And I'm coming to you very quickly, Dr. Ignatius Kweku-Williams, but I want to remind you again that Agenda is brought to you by the Bank of Africa. Quick fix loan from Bank of Africa is back from now up until the end of October. You can get in touch with the Bank of Africa for that. Dr. Ignatius Kweku-Williams, one of the things that people are asking really is, and we heard Doc talking about it here, Dr. Tre Jiabo talking about the fact that we should be able to even measure how much rain we're receiving in certain areas. As a Ghana Meteo Agency, do you have the devices needed to determine that so we are able to design custom-made, as it were, solutions for these areas receiving rains?
Thank you very much for that question again. And the simple answer is yes, we have the equipment to be able to do some measurements. It's all about the quantity that we need to be able to do these measurements. And as I heard him make the remarks, it's almost as if some arbitrary figures were just being quoted by the Minister of Interior and then the presidency yesterday. And as a matter of fact, all those figures that are being quoted, and as you repeated, came from the Ghana Meteorological Agency, because it could have only come from an institution which is collecting this information. Although the number of monitoring stations are not too much, in Accra, we managed to be able to collect. And this is the sort of collaborations also that we are having with other institutions who are mounting equipment across the length and the breadth of the country. So currently we have a collaboration with TAMO. It's a private entity that operates by installing automatic weather stations in the country. We also have another partner, Very Ground, who have also mounted automatic weather stations. So we try as much as possible to collate data from all these stations based on where they've been installed. And before they are even allowed to deploy these stations, we make sure that we host them in our enclosure, we test them, we calibrate them, and make sure that it is almost at par to the manual equipment or the standards that have been set by the World Meteorological Organization to be able to use them, because every information that we collect as the Ghana Meteorological Agency feeds into the global system, which informs other models as well. So if we give an example of, let's say, the data that is being collected, I'm just going to give you several examples based on different locations that I have right in front of me. So if we look at, let's say, Abokobi on the June 3rd, 2026, we recorded 146.8 millimeters of rainfall in Abokobi. And I'm only going by different collection mechanisms. So this is what we observed at Abokobi using the Ghana Meteorological Agency systems. And I should also note that some of these equipments were donated to us through the Garrett project. So we have some compact automatic weather stations as well as automatic rainfall stations as well. So if you go to St. Mary's on that same day, we recorded about 64 millimeters of rainfall. In Wager, we had about
I'm sorry, sir.
8 millimeters. So it just gives two.
Yes, I'm not sure how the individual data would help us in terms of solving the global issue that we have in this country.
For you to appreciate the fact that I think he also did mention it, that you are not always going to get the same information coming from different locations, as you are going to experience different precipitation rates at different points. So you have to have a wider network of observation equipment to be able to improve the accuracy of your forecast.
That's understood. But from the data available to the Ghana Meteo Agency, though, what are the most significant climate risks that Ghana faces over the next decade? Because based on the information you're giving us, I assume that you have an understanding of what could be happening in the next 10 years if we don't do anything currently.
For us, and this is what we are doing to work with other different sectors. Also, earlier this year, we developed Ghana's first ever climate atlas, and this is given certain projections of what we are to expect, and based on different carbon emission scenarios over the next couple of decades, or even to the end of century. So we are looking at indicators like temperature, like sea level rise, and also rainfall. And these are looking at the different implications if we don't cut greenhouse emissions, how the system is going to look like, how temperatures are going to increase in different parts of the country. And it always has implications on different sectors like energy, on health, on agriculture, amongst other sectors.
You talked about collaborating with agencies. What weather warnings really should trigger mandatory emergency actions from the institutions that you're collaborating with, for instance?
So, for instance, with the seasonal forecast that we do, it gives you an outlook for the next 6 months. And per what we released in January, normally we do this in collaboration with the Ghana Hydrological Authority. And we also collaborate particularly with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture through the Food Systems Resilience Project. And through this project, we've been able to also come out with a cropping calendar, which makes sure that you are coinciding the onset of rain cessation and also possible planning for dry spells and its implication on farmers. So these are just some of the collaborations we have, because if we are looking into the future and we are expecting either dry spells or we are expecting excessive rainfall, how should these individuals be able to plan? And once they are together with us on the development of some of these products, it's able to help to inform the public on what particular actions to take, particularly for NADMO, for instance. When we launched this particular product, the seasonal forecast for the southern sector, we paid key visits to a lot of their offices, especially in Kumasi, which necessitated some particular action, the beginning to do some dredging early enough. And we've also tried to do some training also for NADMO officers in Accra. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, we engaged them, did a training to be able to understand, interpret, and carry out some action when they see warnings coming from the Ghana Meteorological Agency.
And speaking of NADMO, we're joined on the phone by Mr. Dennis Nate Ajano. He's a Greater Accra Regional Director for the National Disaster Management Organization. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, and thanks for
From morning, we've had information about how many people are dead, 12. We understand 7 people rescued and the properties that have been destroyed. From the point of NADMO and the data you've gathered, what can you tell us?
again. From NADMO's perspective, as of now, confirmed that we have 12. You know, as at close of yesterday, we had 8 confirmed, and then this morning we also received news from some of our municipalities about some extra numbers that we found. And so we are still collating the figures, so we can give you the exact. But apart from the 8 confirmed yesterday, the flooding, we have received news of about 4 confirmed deaths this morning.
So that's up to the 12 that we've known
2
from
from Tema, and then I think 1 from Weja, and then 1 from Gai.
Okay, so are we looking at 15?
Are we looking at
15 deaths, unfortunately. Is that what you're saying?
No, so we are looking at 12 as of now. Yesterday evening we had 8 confirmed, and today 4.
Okay.
So let's say for now, let's say 12.
A number of people are in distress. NADMO, what have you done so far to help those who are calling for help?
So immediately after the rains yesterday, we activated our rescue system, and immediately those who were vulnerable were given places to sleep. That is, identified safe havens in those communities. We gave them some mattresses and, of course, some blankets so that they could have a comfortable sleep in the night. And then today we continue with our assessment and then registration. Of course, because we practice extended family system, so most people have to, spend the night with their friends, other family members. So the vulnerables yesterday were evacuated to the safe havens and then catered for. So today we continue the assessment by registering those that have been displaced, so that later on we would identify them and then see how and possibly we have to keep them so they could get back on their feet.
The destruction is massive. Is NADMO well equipped to take care of those who are in need? Yes, yesterday we had the president talk about activating the contingency fund just so that people who need support can receive that. But from the point of NADMO as well, do you think that you have what is necessary to supplement, as it were, what the president talked about to help those in need?
Yesterday's disaster was overwhelming, and so I think that is what has triggered the president to direct that an amount from the contingency fund be used to support the victims. And so we are reaching out to benevolent organizations, NGOs, and other organizations to also support. Government alone cannot do it. We should just extend a hand of support which do not inform, even though we have some recovery and response measures. But of course, this was overwhelming. But together, I think we can all do it. So those who can support should do that. Today, we had some organizations, some catering services providing hot food, hot meals to some of the affected victims, and other organizations also have called that tomorrow they'll be providing hot meals. So our doors are open. Anyone who is willing to support can still reach out to NADMO so that we can all do it and support the victims.
Some people are concerned that Ghana, we are more reactionary than putting in the measures that will prevent some of these consequences that we're seeing now. And I know that one of the responsibilities of NADMO is public education and early warning. Already ahead of the rains, we had Ghana Meteor Agency telling us ahead of time that we should be expecting more rains. As NADMO, did you do what you were supposed to do in terms of education and early warnings, just so those who live in flood-prone areas could be better prepared for what we saw yesterday?
We have always been proactive. I will not agree to the assertion that we are more reactive. Of course, when you are preparing, people do not, want to even listen to it, or we don't really hear that in the public domain until disaster strike and we are facing the consequences before we always get the negative side of it. Because we activated our early warning protocols earlier on from January, February. And that was when we also received information from GMET that this area is going to have early rains. And so out of the 29 MMD, the flood-prone areas that we have identified, we started our community sensitization. We started putting in our emergency preparedness plan and all these protocols. And so we had prepared ahead of the rains. And just that is just unfortunate. Sometimes people are recalcitrant and they don't really want to pay heed to some of these early warning systems. But we do have them, and that is what has necessitated our promptness in terms of the response to the disasters that occur.
Beyond the early warning and education, you're also supposed to be proactively developing national and district disaster management plans to mitigate the impact of floods. Have you done that?
We have done that, and one of the ways we put in place is to form disaster volunteer groups in all the districts. As we speak now, in all the districts, we have disaster volunteer groups that we have trained them in terms of response and recovery. And so those were part of the early warning systems that we put in place. And like I said, sometimes when you are doing those things, it doesn't really come out. We have done a lot in terms of the education and sensitization. When you look at Wage Agbawi, for instance, we have been constantly giving them education. Most of the residents association, we are on the same platform with them. We do share the dam warnings with them on daily basis as to the level the dam will start to fill, as to the level they need to start evacuation. We've been doing all this.
So can you tell us the evidence of the impact of what you said you've implemented?
Come again, please.
Can you tell us the evidence of the impact of these plans you say you've implemented?
Can I tell residents?
What's the evidence of the impact of the plans you say you've implemented on the ground? Show us the evidence. Do you have?
I cannot hear you properly.
You can't hear me.
Yeah, so come again, please.
I was asking you, you're saying that you've implemented plans. So can you tell us the results of those plans you implemented in the face of the floods that we've seen?
Yes, I think that is what has necessitated the early response that yesterday we undertook when the waters were, overwhelming, trying to get into the homes. Because we put in measures like when, in case there is flooding in those areas, what they have to do and what they don't have to do. And so most of them were aware, and then putting out our emergency short code for emergency response, and all those informations were out there for them.
I want to come back to you, Mr. Kasavotri. We heard the Interior Minister say that looking at the volumes we received yesterday, even if they had the best in place, we would have still seen the disaster that we saw yesterday. Do you agree with him?
No, I don't agree.
Why?
Because we know for a fact that anytime you have a rainfall of 30 mm, as low as 30 mm and above, we get flood in Accra. And like we said, the data has been there. I think the meteo specialist is there, our climate specialist is there. If we want to have our rainfall data for the past 3 decades, 4 decades, we could tell. And in the month of June, we could tell the numbers. So if we are having problem with 30 mm, then we have 110 mm, we know the outcome. But I must emphasize that the high level of rainfall is a contributing factor. However, we have time to plan. We have time to enforce our laws as well. And then many others. If we don't look at things holistically, like I've highlighted earlier in my submissions, we'll be singing the same songs.
We'll be singing the same songs. I want to go back to Mr. Dennis Nate Ajano for his last word on this. And sir, what I wanted to ask you before you take leave of us is whether or not at this stage, before the next rainy season, there's any plan in place from NADMO to mitigate the impact, because there's a potential that we may see floods again next year.
Yes, so going forward, I think enforcement of the bylaws by the Assembly is very important. We have earmarked a lot of structures to be demolished along the waterways, a lot of dredging exercises to be done along the waterways. If we don't enforce the bylaws, then we'll go back to square one. I think enough of the talks. We need to walk the talks and make sure that we are on the ground and ensure that once we clear these structures, the residents do not go back to raise them again. That is the long and short of the whole issue, and we must be ready to crack the whip. Anyone found culpable should be prosecuted, so that it will serve as a deterrent to other would-be developers along this stretch.
We'll have to end it here with you, Mr. Dennis Nate Ajano, Greater Accra Regional Director of the National Disaster Management Organization. Thank you very much for joining us. Let me get your thoughts as well. What do you think about what the minister said? That, yes, the rains massively influenced what we witnessed yesterday.
So to a large extent, it's not possible for us to completely blame climate change. That's the big problem. And so the question is, if we had everything in place, what would have probably happened was we may not have the fatalities we had. We may not have had the number of people who were directly impacted. But it's important to acknowledge that the situation we have, maybe 40, 30% to climate change. But waste management cannot be ignored. The behavioral attitude of people cannot be ignored. The unenforcement of bylaws, of district assemblies, of the LUSPA planning schemes not being enforced, even the building codes. When people show videos on social media, what you see is that they don't realize how much their houses have become impervious. The building code doesn't allow you to tile or block your entire compound because you should leave some space for water to be able to seep into the ground. You now find people even putting plastic films below before they do the pavement. And when you do that, you create a big swimming pool when it rains. So you now find out that people's houses have water reaching to their neck levels. Question is, why is the water not seeping down?
Are you saying we don't have engineers involved when people are building? They should know this.
It's not about not having engineers involved. We've prioritized aesthetics over functional ecosystems. People would want to see their houses tiled and without any dust than it's being a functional environment where when water pours on it, it will seep through. How many people even implement the building permits they get from the district assembly? And the reason is, what you don't monitor, you cannot be able to talk about it. So the building permit is given by the district assembly. Who goes around to check if they are actually building according to those permits? So we become, get the permits to check the box, and then go and do whatever you want to do in your plot.
And I want you to add your final word to this in 30 seconds. I'll go to the gentleman from Ghana Meteo, Dr. Ignatius, and I'll get your final word as well.
Yeah. And so it's important for us to move from checking the box that, oh, we've done this, we've done that, to really seeing and doing what we need to do. Because beyond the government's work, beyond what has to be done, at the individual level, people are not doing enough. And so would we have experienced something similar? Maybe, but not this way.
Not this way. Dr. Ignatius Kweku-Williams, what will be your final words moving forward from the perspective of the Ghana Meteo Agency?
I think in as much as we cannot discount other factors, I think we should have in the back of our minds that climate change is playing a major role in some of these activities. Based on the figures that we looked at cumulatively, just looking at one particular station at the Kotoka International Airport, if you are looking at the analysis of data since 1981, total rainfall that has been observed at that particular station for the total period of June 2026 ranked as the highest, receiving about 593.2 millimeters of rainfall. And if you look at it also for the maximum daily rainfall event, if you are classifying rainfall above 100 millimeters, the 28th to 29th of June ranked as number 4. So we cannot totally discount the effects of climate change when it comes to some of these things. But in going forward, we make sure that even when we cannot avoid some of these things, we make sure that we take anticipatory action and make sure that the effects of some of these things is reduced.
And a number of you, before I come to you for your final word, Mr. Kas-Avotri, a number of you have been sending in your messages on Facebook, and I want to read some of them to you. There is a message coming in from Ajura Najus, says, so we can't have a, okay, I'm sorry, I'm not able to read that. And there is Darling Prince, says, good evening. The causes of yesterday's devastating flooding in Accra is nothing new. It has been the old causes. Why have we been able to identify the causes but cannot identify lasting solutions to this perennial Accra flooding problems? Now, 38,802 people have been displaced, 12 people dead, and 7 are missing. Too sad. The money, laws, measures, and enforcements are there, but we are not using them. What a shame. And he's greeting his constituency executives where he finds himself. But let me get your final word, sir.
Yes. So my final word is I hope this will spur us to have a national drive towards infrastructure and sanitation. I must emphasize that this country, we don't lack knowledge. We don't. What we lack is action. What I can say is I hope we take action. Those will be my final words for the evening.
Thank you very much. And to you, Dr. Ignatius Kweku-Williams, Deputy Director General, Ghana Meteorological Agency. Thank you for joining us for our video call. Also to you, Engineer Prince Kas-Avotri, Executive Secretary, Structural Subdivision, Ghana Institution of Engineering. And of course to you as well, Dr. Elvis Tre, Giabo, Environmental and Climate Modeling Expert. Earlier, we had with us Mr. Dennis Nate Ajano, Greater Accra Regional Director of the National Disaster Management Organization. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us on Agenda tonight. But let me remind you that Agenda was brought to you by a quick fix loan from the Bank of Africa. And they are reminding you that that is back from now until the end of October 2026. The Bank of Africa is offering short-term loans at very slim rate to salaried workers. We understand you have urgent needs to sort out. So that's why we give you that quick turnaround time, whether it is school fees, prospectus, car maintenance, or that much-deserved family vacation. Bank of Africa will sort you out fast. Visit the nearest branch or chat Fafa www.boaghana.com to sign up. You may also WhatsApp on 0244 338226 for inquiries. Sometimes all you need is a quick fix. Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close as a partner. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you once again for joining us on Agenda Tonight. Do join us again next week.